cover our presentation. Can you still see this, Alan, right now?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Okay. So, oops. I used this sample thing to teach someone in the UK last time. It was on Reddit. I met someone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
Okay.
So quickly, this is for me to introduce. You already know me, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're good bros. But yep, May I got 76, September I got 84. Overall 66 and 70, which means my other two sections were really trash. It's really unlucky, but whatever. And yeah, we'll both be sitting in March in 2021. So
yeah,
that's good. First off, that is. Oh, by the way, have you bought the GAMSAT package yet?
The which package?
The GAMSAT test is $500.
Oh, you mean like when you enroll? Yeah. Okay. Not yet, but I will do it soon.
We have like 10 days, so do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 10 days. So hurry up.
Alright, fair enough.
Yeah, that's really quick. I didn't really need to introduce myself to you, so that's cool.
Yeah.
About you, okay, Alan, do you mind introducing yourself for us quickly?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm Alan. You probably know me from, some of you. We're doing the same course. I'm in the same course as you, medical science. Oh, we are, right? Yeah. Or are you doing a different degree than me?
We're doing med sci, bro. What are you talking about?
Yeah, sorry. I know, because I always feel like there's like friends who do science degrees and then they do the courses that we do, and I'm like, oh, you're a MITSA, right? But then they're like,
but now we're
I'm
both in honors, so yeah, we're both doing honors this year.
Yeah, both doing honors
next year.
And yeah, I've known you since 2000, I guess
19,
17 or 18, maybe. 18? Well, Sean introduced me to you, I think.
First year,
17 once. Yeah, I remember you were like with Simon, or no, what's his name? Jason, and you were like eating lunch near the cafeteria, near like the chemistry labs, and then you're like, yeah, this is Max. So,
okay, so that's Alan. Cool. We know Alan. That's easy. Really, this is a presentation for my other students. Tell me about you, who you are and how you went. So we know who you are. Do you mind telling us how you went, just for section 2?
Yeah, sure. Section 2. The thing is, I've kind of forgotten. I probably need to check.
You don't need the actual results, just like some rough estimate how you went.
I think like I averaged around 65 or something
for section
overall.
2.
So section 2 was probably around there as well.
Okay.
I think so.
I remember you and Uma had very consistent results.
Yeah, we had very similar scores as well. Like I think all my 3 sections were literally like 1 mark like discrepancy between each other, like 65, 64, 66 or something like that. I can't remember.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really consistent there. And quickly, why do you think you got 65? Do you think it's a good score? What do you think about everything?
Well, I don't think 65 is as good as it needs to be. Definitely could be improved. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just that I'm not that strong at writing. Maybe it's the form structure of the way I write. Perhaps it's the ideas expressed.
How do you write?
For the one that I did way back when, it was more like a very sort of generic sort of essay writing. It was the one. I don't know if you got the same topic, but it was about sort of judging a book by its cover and like how like beauty and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you get that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just did a very simple, cliched kind of don't judge a book by its cover, that kind of idea. And then sort of getting ideas in from other areas where my personal experiences have been reflected in that writing. But then the other one caught me off guard with like
radicalism,
conservatism, and like radicalism, and I was just like, okay, I'm not that well versed in politics and sort of that policies like those, and so that sort of threw me off guard, and I just kind of I'm not sure if that's what pulled me down probably more, but yeah.
Okay, that was in so you didn't sit September, right?
I think that was probably March last year. I didn't do September.
So you did.
You were the only one who did it in September.
Yeah. Okay. So September we got pretty similar topics. I think it was about portrayal or something about how you're perceived, and then section 1 was about poverty. So these are all very not section 1, part 1 and part 2, or type A, type B. I forgot what it's called. You know, type A is always going to be something that is more something more dividing, I think. Something that is, you know, separates people, you know? Okay, I'll talk about how you write those in a bit. And section B is obviously, you know, it's more about properties, it's about morals, ethics, something that you should have a value of. Okay, so we know how you write. You basically just said you YOLO'd it, right? You wrote it, you YOLO'd it.
I guess so.
With a style that you wrote on the day that you felt like, oh yeah, that will fit in good. Okay.
It was like, I guess, more as generic as could be. I didn't have any particular sort of proclivity towards any ideas that I had. It was more just a very generic sort of general thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I honestly, man, this is why I like section 2. It's because, you know, my other sections were all like 65, 69. Section 2 is super easy to improve in. Like, it's incredibly easy. I'm pretty sure you'll improve at least 5 points after the session. It's so easy to improve in because it's the most inconsistent. Like, you can write really bad, really well. You know, it's a good differentiating factor. So it's hard to write consistently, but it's incredibly powerful too, right? So, okay, so you know that is one thing you need to work on. Try to develop something that is better for yourself, that makes you more consistent. Because when you I'll show you, I'm as consistent as I'll get, not in terms of how I produce, but how I structure my writings. Okay, so before we begin, I just need to let you know, FYI, in case some gurus out there are like, "Oh my God, Max, you don't even know what you're talking about."
Max, what are you on about?
Max,
Come on, man. We both know you're a god in section 2.
Okay, it's important for you guys to know, I'm not qualified to teach a GAMSAT, okay? I'm not Fraser's GAMSAT, I'm not ACE GAMSAT, gold standard, okay? I could very well have gotten lucky twice, so, you know, I just want everyone there to know that, yeah, I'm not an exceptionally good writer, okay? And that is important, because I'm going to tell you how I feel about everything now. It's going to be like a quick lecture now. How I feel about the GAMSAT, and in regards to the first and second criteria, that is it. This is the GAMSAT, and it's not hard. It's really not hard. There's one and there is two sections to the GAMSAT, and that you need to really cover. Okay. With each, I will be covering a drill and a strategy to cover and hit these well. Okay. This is why the section 2 is so easy. Every one and 3, super hard. Like, you never know what you're gonna get. You know, it's up to you how well you write. How well you think on the day. This is way easy, and I'll show you. Thought and content, okay? First one, the quality of what is said, and the second one, the quality of the structure developed and the language used, okay? So first one, we'll look at number 1, thought and content. So how quality are your ideas? Alan, do you know what this means?
I think so, right? Like, basically, the ideas that you express have substance and value. It's not just sort of waffling on about, you know, this and that, but not really saying much.
Yeah, the value is what you're talking about, the value. So it's not really about the substance per se, but that value. Think about what the GAMSAT is about, right? There are probably doctors out there. I teach a student whose parents work as GPs, and they mark the GAMSAT. And she's like, oh, I was on the GAMSAT board. I mark students. And she told me what they look for. They look for prospective doctors, right? You can't, you know, that value and your ideas, it really shows what kind of person you are and what kind of doctor you'll be. So we'll talk about that in a bit. There's certain properties that I want in your essays that will help you get really good marks. Otherwise, it will show immediately that you're still immature, you're very temperamental, very impulsive, you know. So how quality are your ideas? I taught another student with this topic, and I came across this thing last time on Facebook. This game hunter woman, alright? You know, this is a very emotional picture. Okay, I'll show you quickly. Drill and strategy. Let's try. This is a drill time for you, Alan. Do you have a pen and paper around?
Yeah, I got one right now.
Okay, cool. So, celebrities slam female game hunter for showing off big kill. Okay, I'll read this out for you. A big game hunter is being criticized by celebrities on social media for her disgusting act of killing a leopard. An image of the unidentified woman known as Brittany holding up the carcass of the large animal shared on the SCI for being a record killed. These are very emotional words so far. SCI is an Arizona-based organization that protects hunters' rights and promotes wildlife conservation, according to the website. So this organization posted this picture, which got a counter, instead of appraisal, she got, a lot of backlash. Some people consider it a record, some people call it disgusting. Cool. Similarly, there's all of these kinds of photos as well. These all spark very strong emotions in people, and when you post this on social media, you often see this. Anti-vaxxer. You'll see something like Donald Trump, whatever. These are all very emotional headlines. So consider this one, Alan.
Yep.
Let's say type B essay. I gave you this picture, and of the context that I gave you, it's not even about GAMSAT right now. I want you to brainstorm something. 5 minutes. Try write what you can. Generate a thesis and body idea off of this topic: animal cruelty. Okay. So I'll give you I'll give you 3 minutes. Just quickly write it down on the page. Do a circle around it. I'll show you. Yeah. Like this. Right. Oh. Just like a little animal cruelty on a big page, and then brainstorm ideas. Okay. So I just want you to generate me a thesis. I'll give you 3 minutes. Write a quick thesis, one sentence, and your 2 arguments or 3 arguments in your body. Okay. Go for it. I'll mute myself.
Okay.
Go for it. Okay, 30 more seconds. Okay, let's see what you got, Alan. So, on animal cruelty, on game hunting, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What do you have? So, what's your thesis and your body 2 arguments that you want to argue for?
Yeah. Okay. I think my main point was that like my thesis would have been animals are living creatures like ourselves. If cruel acts are performed on humans are universally seen as inhumane, then animals should be the same. And then I think my main body was that like essentially we are animals as well, and that we shouldn't be treating others in such a disrespectful manner, or like hunting them and stuff like that, and how they're also living creatures, and you know if that we should not kill living creatures. But then my final argument would have been like they should only be hunted for like necessity, such as food or whatever. That's it. But hunting for sport or such is not a necessary action. Um, but that's all I could come up in the 3 minutes.
Good, great. Okay, so quickly from what you told me so far, I really like how you, in one aspect, I like how you for this topic, animal cruelty, game hunting, you wrote the two body paragraphs. They were great at linking to your thesis. So what I mean by that is, you had the thesis, which is, if animals, we should consider animals like humans, and therefore, we should treat them as such because they deserve the same rights that we do. How long was that for me to explain? Right, that was way too long. A thesis needs to be straight and to the point, right? So that's
Okay.
one thing. But the body paragraphs, it was great because you spent the first paragraph breaking it down. Your two, what's that called? Your two premises or whatever, right? You call it the premise that animals should are lives as well. We should treat them the same as humans. Now these premises, you're not going to be able to do that in 30 minutes. Think about it. Are you going to be able to justify to the generations of people who went fish hunting, fishing? I go fishing every day, right? I go there, I hook fish in the mouth. If you break it down like that, that's real dog, right? Either I hook them in the mouth, I cause them harm, and I chuck them in a little esky, let them live. That's real tormenting, right? Think about it. If a human was like that, there's going to be doctors that market like that as well. Try not to write something that is too trivial. Instead, there's something called thesis bending. Have you heard of that?
No, I have not.
Okay, if the thesis in this case was animal cruelty, bend the topic so that it's talking about game hunting. Okay? Do you see what I'm doing so far?
Yeah.
If it's about nationalism, or if it's about patriotism, bend it so that it talks about nationalism, or bend it so it talks about patriotism. So there are certain aspects of nationalism that are positive and negative. Always talk about the two sides, and then you say in your essay, break down so tiny, just hit one part of your topic. In this essay, we'll be discussing patriotism or something, okay? And the negative aspects that lead to it, okay? In that case, I'll show you how I structure my stuff. This is just one of the first. Oh, can you see this? Oh no.
It's kind of blending into your background.
Alright, whatever. Give me a second. Video.
Yep. So just saying like if it's a very complex sort of topic, grab one aspect of that complex topic and use that as a thesis. That's what you mean, right?
There's no such thing as a complex topic, exactly. Okay, what I mean is it's only up to how you want to write it. When I started writing practice essays in the beginning, I used to do that as well. They give me slavery, I write all about the history of slavery. It's not about that.
Right.
Okay, turn off background, cool. This is my room, Maddie's clothes. Okay, so this is basically how I structure it. Like if it was on literature, right? I'd write my first line, and my first one was, as knowledge of literature constricts greatly, contributes greatly to the richness of life. Okay? I'm not saying an absolute, I'm not saying it's a necessity. It contributes to the richness of life. And then this is the structure, right? A thesis, body 1, body 2, body 3, whatever you want. Okay? Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. That's how I do it. I write really structured. I'll show you in a bit what I mean. And then finally, I'll talk about the end in a bit. So in terms of animal cruelty, thinking about this, talk about how, use an example, okay? So you can even talk the whole thing about one example. I'll do a quick mental jog with you. What I'll talk about for this is, animal cruelty, I'll say, an aspect of animal cruelty that's commonly discussed is game hunting. In particular, commercial game hunting. And then remember these articles. In 2018, Brittany of the what is this? SCI was harshly reprimanded online for her picture, in which she was, you can say, boasting or whatever, a record kill of an African leopard. Okay, that would be a quick background. What my thesis in this case would be is I like to be somewhat controversial. I'll say game hunting is a necessity for wildlife conservation. Well, right? Everyone is going to
Mm.
be writing about, oh my god, animal cruelty is so bad. Okay? Firstly, in that case, obviously, game hunting is not the best thing, right? You're killing animals, they're dying, they're bleeding, they're tortured, whatever you want to call it. In this case, everyone would look at this picture and go, oh my god, how can she be so evil? It's generations of passed down animal cruelty, it's institutionalized animal cruelty that we kill rabbits like this, fish, and animals are shot in the head, bleeding. Nobody really talks about what is the Safari Club International? How can there be a government, allowed organization that kills animals like this? It's not about that. These are Arizona-based organizations that protect hunters' rights. These people, Brittany, she pays $100 to $500,000 a year to go into these parks, which are secluded parks, right? Really big parks, which have these animals. They pay so much money to have an opportunity to kill one animal. It's obviously not that good. But in doing so, it restricts the amount of animals they can kill. It protects the animals inside the conservation. And all in all, it's a way to keep animals from growing. Without this money, without this funding, nobody can protect these animals. You know how rhinos are going extinct, hippos are going extinct, not hippos, elephants for their tusks, for their ebony. Things like this, it's people will obviously immediately just digress from the benefits of game hunting. In this case, there's always benefits. There's no such thing as a negative only thing, right? I'll talk about
Yeah.
like Black Lives Matter and stuff and Hong Kong protests, very sensitive topics in a bit. She actually contributes more to saving animals than any of us do. With her $500,000 a year pass, she might not even kill a leopard. It's very rare for her to kill it. She might have paid for 10 years already and she only killed one. And this organization will protect the leopards, how many she can kill. And in doing so, you can talk about how game hunting in effort is an effort to promote and spread awareness of animal going extinct. My vocabulary. So far, I've been talking. It's not complex vocabulary. I hate people that write complex vocabulary because I used to do that, and it becomes really convoluted. I'll talk to you about that in a bit. My essays in uni and high school. I did the IB and my EE. Um, it's a bit different in high school. I scored one of the highest marks in the school, but it's because I wrote not like my age. And then in uni, I came first year, I got this destroyed. I got like a 60-70% on my first writing because I didn't know what I was writing. I was using too big words for my, those topics. The more complicated words you use, the less situations in which it will be suitable. Okay, so we'll talk about this in a bit. Do you understand what I mean, Alan, with this? Always talk about the
Yeah.
negatives and the positives of each aspect. Try to play devil's advocate. I'm a bit of an ass like that because I like to, if someone says this is good, I always think about what is bad about it. Try to do
Yeah.
that
No,
with
I
every
definitely
topic,
get you.
So that
Yeah.
is what I mean quickly about thesis bending and relate everything to one of these topics, okay? Drag a emotion into your essay. Okay, cool. That's that. Okay. So we've talked about it. It's really quick, and your thesis, you understand, it needs to be quick. And what I mean by this is consideration number one. Your thesis needs to be solid, not cheese. I teach at uni, and as well, a lot of people give me these cheesy, not cheesy in like it's cringe, but cheesy business plans and ideas, right? They say they're going to build a software and then, save the world. You're not going to do that. Mark Zuckerberg's barely doing that on Facebook, okay? You're not going to be doing that because your thesis, it's asking for too much. When you started your thesis as well, you noticed that it was too long. Firstly, it was rambling on
Yeah.
too long. Secondly, you promised too much. You promised talking about how in one paragraph you're going to debunk generations and thousands of years of, institutionalized morality behind what we consider animals to be our counterparts or not, or in terms of rights and stuff, right? You're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do in one paragraph. And what you're doing there is you're presenting the examiners with Swiss cheese. It looks really nice. Wow, you're presenting me with this such a big piece of cheese, right? Like it's fat, but there's too many holes in it. In fact, if you squeeze it down, it's such a tiny substance. You talk about substance and value. The substance is big, but the value is so tiny because you're not really doing anything, right? You're not proving to me anything. You're not talking to me anything. You're just spouting out facts that the general public will talk about. So don't give a cheese. Give a cheddar cheese if you're gonna give cheese. Some thick, small, chunky thesis. Hit the point, okay?
Yeah.
Body, strong, bold, and independent. Great. Your bodies were really nice because they supported your thesis really nicely. You notice that you broke it down to the premises necessary.
Right.
I was teaching a student last time. She wrote, the bodies just don't make sense. Anyway, I'll show you in the end if we have time.
Yep.
Have a strong body, a bold and independent body. What I mean by that is you should have a thesis in the beginning. You know, game hunting is a necessity in promoting wildlife conservation. Your bodies should do what you did, which is premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, whatever you want to write, and break down aspects of the thesis. They should be mini theses in themselves. I write in a very common way. I use a peel paragraph, but I write PEEEEEEL. What I mean by that is, you'll see, it's quality over quantity. Okay, I don't like to write too many body paragraphs. I'd write 1 if I could. I normally just write 2, and I just keep on giving rebuttals. You'll see in a bit. The bodies need to be strong, bold, and independent in the sense that if my thesis was what I said before, one of my bodies would be wildlife conservation efforts trump those of animal, whatever, like how an animal would naturally live in the wildlife, because in that case it promotes a controlled environment for hunting to occur and animal lives would be saved for. That's like a central topic, right? And you can obviously argue with that. That's what you'll be doing. I'll show you organization and expression, and this is now what I'm talking about. Are you writing a mess? You might not be writing a mess, Alan, but your writing is not as consistent as it can be, and that's where we need to be. Organization and expression. You have your mind map, okay? How will you structure your essays? How do you normally structure your essays, Alan?
I think, like you said, I usually try and do it in a form where I talk about the main, like I have my main premise.
Yep.
And then I sort of pull out my explanation, and then I'm not too sure actually. I think the last time I did it, it was I premise and then examples or explanations, and then maybe my personal experience.
Yeah.
But
personal experience and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
What about the actual structure that I'm talking about in the body paragraphs? How would you write it?
I think probably would also follow like a premise, explanation, and then I'd try and at least link it back to the thesis, because that's pretty important near the end. Because I think that's one of the things they look for.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, so you just structured your body paragraph for me. We see how you have a very clear like first line and ending line. Your body part might be a bit jumbled because you're chucking in a lot of things. I write like this: intro, conclusion is very common, and I write 2 to 3 bodies. In fact, I don't even like writing 3 bodies because I don't have the time. You have 30 minutes, take away 5 minutes for a good plan. You have 25 minutes. It takes me about 2 minutes and 2 minutes to type these. So I really only have 20 minutes to type 2 bodies, which is 10 minutes on each body, right? That's not a lot. It's really not. If I even want to break it down, it'll be 6, something like that. 6 minutes on each body paragraph if I wrote 3. You're not going to have time to write 3 good body paragraphs in 6 minutes. I type really fast and I'm not going to have time.
Yeah.
Okay, as I said, quality over quantity is a very cliche thing, but what I mean by that is you're going to take that literally, right? Don't write 3 bodies if you can't handle 3 bodies, right? It's just going to be trash if you spread it. It's so thin. Write it 1 body if you have to, if you can't fit 2 bodies in. I didn't even finish my section B essay last time I read about beauty. So it's not about having 3 bodies, okay? I deleted a whole body paragraph from my section B because I thought I had time. If you don't, write something solid. That's important. Write something solid. Okay, so quality over quantity, that is not to say I write little. Writing 2 body paragraphs, I'm not talking about writing less. I'm talking about giving more. Okay, so what I mean in my body paragraphs, typically structured like this. This is an example body paragraph. First line leading to a drawer line, which is drawing attention. Second line, point, mini thesis. So this might be, I might requote a quote from somewhere, might use one of the GAMSAT quotes that they give you, and then I give the thesis, mini thesis, or the point, right? The peel. And then example, relate that example to an idea, then rebut it, then rebut that idea, then counter rebut that idea, and link to a second body. It looks really complicated like this. I'll set it out for you. Leader line, okay? This is something that attracts attention, 1 leopard killed saves 10. maybe. Okay, something that is short, attention seeking, and sort of like a clickbait, but something that you can reboot. Okay.
Right.
Point line. This is like the PE that I write, so the mini thesis I told you about, and then I'll give an example. I'll use Brittany from before from the Safari Conservation Initiative, SCI or whatever, and then I'll relate to how this example talks about animal cruelty or game hunting. Right? Cool.
Yeah.
Everything's easy so far, and then I'm gonna rebut it. I'm gonna be like, however, killing this animal does not killing these animals is without a doubt um, still an assault on humankind's effort in providing equality of morality amongst species, because that is a concept called speciesism. There's racism, there's speciesism. Speciesism is considering other species non-humane to be less than you. Okay, so that's speciesism. Cool. That is a good rebuttal because it's a real thing. Counter rebuttal, counter that. However, it is without a doubt to say that these efforts provide more contribution towards animal conservation than any of us could just posting a like on Facebook or whatever, because these efforts actually contribute to increasing animal populations. Consider the leopard population in 2019. Honestly, I lied in a lot of statistics in my essays. I even made up a book. Okay, I'll say in 2019, leopard conservation efforts raised the spotted jaguar from 200 to 2,000 because of SCI. Okay.
Would you do that though? Like, just as a quick question, like,
I literally did that in both essays. They're not gonna check it. They have like 10 minutes. I'm not even. They have like 10 minutes. They get paid per hour to $30 to mark essays if they don't hit the criteria. They're not gonna check your essays. They'll read it. They'll be like, oh my goodness. They don't write something too BS. Okay. Anyone watching, probably don't do that. But do your research. If you don't do your research, have a vague knowledge in mind. Do you understand what I'm talking about, Alan? In this case, it makes you really well versed in the topic, even though you might not be. And then end on something strong and philosophical. Exactly. So talk about, link it back, but talk about how, there's a book out there, something about speciesism, and it talks about, how killing a fly, pulling the wings off a fly and the Boston, Massachusetts bombings, really, morality travels in a circle. Something like that, where, it's not a far road from pulling the wings off a fly to setting the bombs off in a marathon. It's talking about how morals are linked, and the way you treat animals really implies how you will treat humans, and that's why we should promote these efforts. Does that make sense so far?
Right.
And this is on each body paragraph. So really, each body paragraph needs to be real thick, and you have 10 minutes to write this. It's not easy. All right? Cool. Okay, hopefully it helped you so far. Now, I'm going to show you one of the books I really like. This is how they start and end, okay? And I base my writing in the same style. I literally study these books religiously. Like, I pray to them every night. So it's not really easy to get that high marks on the GAMSAT section 2 unless you're naturally good at writing. I'm not. So I have to study really hard. In the case of Hope, let's say Hope would be a type 2 essay, right? Hope. Thomas Fuller, I don't know who he is. I've heard of his name. If it were not for Hope, the heart would break. So romantic. You can even put this for one of your leader lines for the points. Okay, and I'll quickly read out a few lines of this that I really like. This is how he starts. To people in parts of the world where ethnic and religious conflicts persist, often as a result of things that happened hundreds of years ago. Consider, Saudi Arabia, Iran, the Middle East. This is because of ethnic and religious reasons. There's the Sunni Muslims and there's some other Muslims. There's different types of Catholics and other types of Christians as well. These are conflicts, whether or not physical, they exist in other dimensions of health, like social health. You'll be discriminated against and stuff, right? So you need to consider how these affect people. Often as a result of things that happened hundreds of years ago. An instance of mankind's tragedies past, keeping their fatal grip on the future. This is how they write. So simple, words, right? But it provides so deep of a meaning. The saying Proverbs painfully applies, hope deferred maketh the heart sick. Okay. And then quickly, last one is, for such people as for those seeking asylum in free, rich countries so that they can have the life denied them in their unfree and impoverished homelands, hope for peace and opportunity for a new life is their chief possession. It is hard to bear the thought of their disappointment when their hopes are denied. Think about this. Immediately reminds me of like Mexico and the US and how they're taking bad efforts in stopping people from illegally migrating. Understandable. It is probably really bad for the economy and stuff. I don't know, but think about how in the individually on the personal level, how that would affect somebody, right? It's incredible. It's like that saying where this man walked along the beach and he saw thousands of starfish and he threw them back one at a time, and then someone else was like, you're no way you're going to be able to save all these starfish. And it's not about saving all the starfish in the world, it's about saving the world for that one starfish. It's like that. Cool. Yeah. So talk about it in that kind of novel, valuable way. Okay, cool.
Right, like the individual sense, not just the mass sense.
Because that's what like being a doctor is about. You're not going to be able to save everyone, but for the one person that you do save, it's going to mean the world to them, right?
That makes sense, yeah.
Cool. So write in that sense. Write something valuable. Write something substantial. Okay, then for that, this is how they end. It is incredible. So this is how they end. Hope is a virtue independently of its realizations. Okay, it is an intrinsic value, an end in itself, allied to courage and imagination, a positive attitude of possibility and aspiration. So far, wow, it's independent of its realizations. What does that mean? Okay, what does hope is a virtue independent of its realizations mean? Do you know what it means, Alan? It's an intrinsic value.
So hope is what independent of its realization. Isn't it like saying that it doesn't matter what you're trying to do? Hope, if you have hope, that there's always a possibility of like trying to get there.
If you have hope, there's always a possibility of trying to get there.
Yeah, let me just try and see.
Basically, but in this case, this is why it's talking about. It's talking about on the individual level again, Alan. It's not about whether or not you can get there. It's about this. Hope. So for that reason, you discover more about a person when you learn about his hopes than when you count his achievements. Wow. For the best of what we are lies in what we hope to be. What? Read that again. If you write this in your GAMSAT essay, instant 90. For that reason, you discover more about a person when you learn about his hopes, learn about what someone hopes to be, than when you count what they have achieved. Because the best of what we are lies in what we hope to be.
Yeah, fair enough.
Insightful. Crazy, right? Because, it's exactly talk about the second line, which is hope is independent of its realizations. Doesn't matter if your hopes are achieved or not. Oftentimes, hope is not achieved, right? And, that is a little, even if you just wrote these 2 paragraphs in your essay, that would be unimaginable already. You can definitely write that in 30 minutes if you memorize it. There's only a certain amount of morals that you can talk about. Study them.
Yeah.
Know what hope means. I got something about wisdom once on a practice essay. I didn't even know what wisdom was. Do you know what wisdom is? I still don't know what it is. If I get it, I'm screwed. I was thinking about how, the old people always know because they're wise. Do you have to be old to be wise?
I guess like wisdom is more or less about being old. It's more about experience, right? Because therefore, usually the older you are, the more tendency you have to have experienced more things. That's why people tend media tends to portray wise people as elderly people because they've lived through many experiences and they've gained that knowledge.
There's more chance
it doesn't
they
have
know.
to be.
Yeah. Cool. Exactly. So do you understand what I mean by this now, Alan? Write in a way that is in the intro and conclusion in the same style. Okay, you want to leave a tangy taste in someone's mouth, like a really good dish, right?
Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Write something that is insightful. You can't write this and you can't end in a similar manner. And I mean it. Like you have to write in this level ending because all my endings write in this level, and it's not easy. Pre-plan this, okay? And this is what I mean in the end. Okay, I use the same type of essays for type 1 and type 2. I use argumentative. I don't like contributing personal statements. Last time I was on those Facebook forums and someone was talking about abuse or something. She's talking about how she got abused by her family and she was raped or whatever. I feel bad for her, but she contributed too much personal information that it distorted the overall purpose of the essay to be something more retrospective.
I get what you mean.
Yeah,
it's like the experiences takes away from the message she's trying to put forward.
You don't even have to say yourself. You can say John McCain as a child suffered from this. However, he grew up. If you distance yourself from that, it becomes. I'm less inclined to object to what you're saying because I'm less inclined to believe you have a bias, right? Nobody likes to read about that. You read that and you sort of unintentionally go, oh, well, I mean, okay. Is this about a GAMSAT essay or is it about you? Okay?
Yeah.
You have 30 minutes. You don't have time. Okay, type 1, type 2 essays, I use the same. I use argue for both of them. If it's for beauty, I would argue that beauty perception is uncontrollable. That's 4 lines. I'm pretty sure that was my thesis for September. I have 4 words. Perception is out of reach, or perception is not in your control. Something like that. Cool, what do I mean by that? And then I'll break it down into bodies. Body 1, there's internal perception. Body 2, there's external perception. Internal perception, I use examples like narcissism, right? How you perceive yourself. Body 2 was external perception. I wrote about how others perceive you. I wrote about how, you can't control how others perceive you, but you can control how you perceive yourself. And that was my overall essay meaning. Because how you perceive yourself ultimately affects how other people perceive you. Write something that is not cyclical, not repetitive, provides value. And you talked about that. And practice. You know how I used the leopard one? That's not even controversial. Hong Kong protests. Most people will say, oh my god, they're fighting for human rights. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Okay? Black Lives Matter. Oh, Black Lives Matter so much. Maybe, maybe not. Donald Trump impeached again. Oh my goodness. These topics you really want to touch on your essay. I always touch on these essays because it shows how grounded you are. Okay? In terms of Black Lives Matter, is protest good? Is it good to do that? Is it good to protest? How would you say? Pros and cons.
Right. So definitely I say Black Lives Matter protest because, insurrection sort of, if there's ideas like tyranny and, government sort of, like basically if a government is too tyrannical in a sense where it's just not listening to the people, then protests are necessary. But then there's also the other side of the spectrum where, rioting, chaos, anarchy, that sort of idea where it can be too much if it's not necessary and it could cause more harm than benefit to the society.
Yeah, great. And I in this case, I would write something about. I have a background in psychology, so I would write something about group mentality. When you form something like Black Lives Matter, right? You actually create a new psychological group. It's called an out group, and you differentiate yourself from people. And when you protest for pieties, right? Pieties, which means the differences between you and other people, you create new conceptual groups which form bases for new pieties. Does that make sense?
Right. So it's like if you try and
you keep on protesting for Black lives, and it differentiate Black lives from real normal lives, right? Like white lives, Asian lives, whatever. You pull them away, and that becomes a topic. It's not the Black Lives Matter protest. It's not about saying Black lives are important, but when you protest like that, that's what happens, and it creates 2 different groups. It's very hard to equalize the value of these 2 groups afterwards because you effectively differentiate them. When you go Black Lives Matter, Donald Trump is very important, whatever. You're not creating value in this sense, right? And what you should be talking, what did Morgan Freeman? Morgan Freeman said, racism is on his deathbed. It's only about how expensive people want to make the funeral or something. Okay, and it's because you end racism not by saying everyone is equal. It's not about that, but by acknowledging the differences and saying people have values beyond what we physically perceive them with, okay, of their properties, something like that. Write something that is valuable and intrinsic. Does that make sense? Something that's deep inside. So in terms of Black Lives Matter, I'll say your protesting might raise more awareness, but it causes harm. That's what you said, right? You break things, maybe not too good. But then rebut that again. Don't just end like that. Rebut that and say, however, not all people cause harm, and those few people that cause harm, similarly, in the Hong Kong protests, effectively make the whole effort redundant because of a few people can spoil. They say a spoiled apple ruins the bunch or something. The dozen.
Yeah,
it's like
that's
that.
right.
Okay, similar concepts. Okay, write deep like that, and use old adages. Okay, strategy time. And tell you real quick, I pre-write my intro and conclusions. I use literally the same one each time. I'm not even joking. Like I'll have the first line that is flexible. I'll write a quote or a mini lesson, and then the intro and the end would be the same. Try to build one for yourself. I'd write something with these properties, and I'll tell you them now. Pre-write your intro and conclusion. That's why it takes me 2 minutes. I type them at least 10 times a week. Honestly, I practice it. Because you need to get it down pat. It's hard to memorize. I don't know why I still can't memorize it. I'm a bit stupid. But I keep on having to go through and stress out about it. You shouldn't have to stress out about it, okay? Intro and conclusion should always be dead set easy. That's why I said I'm the most consistent person you know, and it can also be negative because that way I'm limited by my structure. Right? I'm not going to be able to get upper 90s. It's not going to be insightful, but that way I'll show that I'm a structured person and I'm consistent, and that's what matters. That's why your body paragraphs are so important, and I'd ask you to write something insightful and valued, right?
Right. But Max, like, just a quick question. Like, you know how you say you could write these? Isn't it like you just mentioned, kind of hard to try and fit? Maybe like, how do you create sort of an all-encompassing sort of introduction? Because obviously, there's not going to be an opportunity where you can manage to fit everything into that same intro. It's going to be times where it's very hard to try and jam it in. How have you written it in a way and so it's
Okay.
vague enough but specific enough at the same time?
Okay. So in terms of game hunting, just keep note right now. Okay. Game hunting, I would say something like, remember animal cruelty. I do thesis bending, so I'll bend it all the way around 180 degrees to talk about one specific aspect of animal cruelty, which is game hunting, and I'll say, okay, many people believe. I'll give a really rough intro. Okay, many
Right.
people believe game hunting to be good, but others believe it to be bad. You can obviously break good and bad into the specifics that you want to talk about in that case. Okay, people believe it to be good. Many others believe it to be bad. Although these two parties may appear to be mutually exclusive, they are actually interconnected and dependent on each other. It is tangible that both parties possess properties which complement each other. Okay, so both are actually promoting wildlife conservation, right? That's what I mean. Because these two parties look like they're separate, but they're both deep at heart trying to save animals.
Right.
That's the properties I'm trying to talk about, and politics is like that as well. Nobody wants people to die, but there's the right and the left. There's Democrats, Republicans. Fundamentally, they're arguing for the same thing, just different ways to approach it. You want to talk about that as a property, and then I'll talk about, in order to fully assess the idea of and then animal cruelty, it is necessary to fully investigate and understand the concepts. In which case, we will talk about the ideas of animals cruelty's necessity and the SCI will be investigated, something like that. So you can see how it's a really big template where you just chuck in the variables, and then my ending line for my intro might be something like, a full and egalitarian exploration of these topics will prove valuable to those who are involved with the topics and may lead to a more fulfilling life, something like that. You see what I mean? So this template, it's not like you can't fit anything. You can fit everything into this template. Make a template for yourself that you think will reflect well on yourself as a good doctor, right? Do you see what I talked about before? Because you want properties, and these are the properties I'm talking about. I have 5 more minutes before I have to leg it, but
Yeah.
I have to, really quickly, what do examiners want? Okay? Remember, they're trying to find future doctors. I talked to you about that story about the student I teach. Trying to find future doctors. What does that entail? Right? What is a doctor? How can you write like a good doctor? Always think about these when you practice writing. You don't want to write something where it's a cheesy essay. Remember, it has to be substantial in terms of value, not in terms of word count. Okay?
Yeah.
What entails being a good doctor, and how can you write like a good doctor? This has to be in your mind. What does it mean to be a good doctor? This is what it means, okay? 5 properties I keep in my essays. Number 1, be concise, okay? I hate it when people write unconcisely, and I hate it because I used to do that, okay? Don't be convoluted, okay? And these things are repetitive. You see, concise and non-convoluted mean the same thing. So don't be repetitive. I'm super repetitive. Melody says that all the time, okay? Don't do that. It's silly and you waste time, and it makes your writing cheap. Don't be repetitive. So plan it out really well. That's why I allocate 5 minutes. That's a lot of time for each essay. That's around 20% almost. That's crazy. Don't be repetitive. Plan it out well so you cover different topics. So be concise. Write well. Don't write convoluted. And finally, these 3 last ones are very important. I use in my essays. Egalitarianism. Do you know what that means, Alan?
Isn't like where everyone's equal?
Yep. Write about it in that way. Okay. Egalitarianism is the concept where believing on the property where people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. Okay, easy, right? That is probably what a doctor believes in. Cool. Next, pluralistic. Do you know what that means?
I'm not too sure.
Plural means multi, right? So pluralistic means having a multiple way of system of thought where it recognizes more than one ultimate principle to society's pluralistic. Okay, what I believe that you don't need that philosophical definition. I personally define pluralistic as a way where you can see multiple outcomes to the same thing. Black Lives Matter. It's good, it's bad, there's many ways, and the good can lead to bad, the bad can lead to good. Make sense? Yep. Be pluralistic. See things differently. Don't just talk about things the way it is, right? I give you Donald Trump getting impeached. You know, some people might say he did a lot of crimes. But this impeachment process, the crimes are not necessarily written in stone, and the impeachment process is really left for really harsh crimes. And it might cheapen the process because now it is really about who can get the most votes. Democrats will obviously all vote for impeach. Some Republicans will be pressured to do so. It cheapens the process, in which case it makes it so that it's not as valuable, you know? So in that case, write about the pros, the cons, and then rewrite against that again and say, however, if we have such rigid institutionalism in terms of the democratic process, presidents may be willing to push their limits in the future and make their presidency personal gain machines. Does that make sense, Alan?
Right. So it's just basically sort of pros, cons, and then kind of like a
pros, cons, pros,
or...
cons, pros, cons. Keep on chucking that in because it makes a rigorous essay. You want a rigorous essay. You don't want a cheese essay. Remember that. Cheese, cheese, cheese. Don't write cheese. Yep. And lastly, depending on time, we can evaluate sample. Oh, wait. Last one is this. Okay, I'm not going to evaluate a sample essay, but learn psychology. So I'll give you a few things. Fundamental attribution error. Okay, what does that mean? Quickly, it means you see a businessman and a homeless man coming in late for an interview. The businessman is dressed in a suit. He comes in late by 3 minutes. What do you think? Why is he late?
Yeah.
Probably traffic. You know, probably something out of his control. Cool. What about the homeless man dressed in rags? Oh my God, he's... You know, we have these biases, unfortunate. It's schemas, mental frameworks of how we believe
or schemas? So how do you spell that?
SCHEMA, schema. It's mental frameworks of how we believe the world to be, right? Unfortunately, it's full with biases, right? You see in the homeless man, you might believe that, oh, even though it might not be true, you know, this guy probably woke up late, that's why he is the way he is. That's unfortunate. Fundamental attribution error shows us a flaw in our perception, right? I use that for perception. Cool. What's another one? Psychology, we can talk about memory. There's short-term, there's long-term memory. How do they lead? Memory tells us what it wants to. Okay, my mom always tells me, oh my God, I saw a ghost when I was 6 years old. Sure, your memory tells you saw a ghost. Doesn't mean there was a ghost there, you know? Right? So memory tells us what it wants to. Psychology is really useful in medicine because it not only shows you how aware of yourself as a person, it's called reflexivity, how aware you are of your own biases, but it also shows the doctors and how well you can write and understand other people, right? So learn a few psychological techniques, fundamental attribution error, learn about memory, learn about hormones and stuff, even that, you know, it talks about sexuality. You know, somebody is homosexual or something. Is it because of psychology? Is it because of cognitive reasons or biological reasons? You know, is it because they think they were raised in a female environment? Is it nature versus nurture? This topic is really common, by the way, so try to write about that. And you can use homosexuality as a topic, okay? Talk about transgenderism. This is very difficult topics. I'll give you an example quickly before I leg it. In terms of this, think about the Canadian weightlifting championships. There was a man who identified as a woman. It's like 180 centimeters. The women there were 160, 170. Went in and it's like, oh my God, I'm a girl. Okay, cool. Went through all the conversion process, lifted the weight easily, came first place in everything. Identified as a woman. Is that fair? You know? Think about things like that. These are trivial topics that you want to talk about. Okay, any last questions, Alan?
Any textbooks or like sort of books you recommend me to sort of just look at, like the one you said before with Hope? I think The Meaning of Things. Okay.
Yep, this. The Meaning of Things, AC Grayling. Cool beans.
Awesome.
All good?
Yeah.
You good, Alan?
Thank you so much, Max.
All goods, man.
Thanks, man.
Was this helpful for you? Hopefully.
No, definitely. It was. No, it was very enlightening to see like where to work on, what sort of aspects to push, you know. Basically, it's definitely very good. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Dude.
Thanks, Alan. I'm gonna leg it now. Have a nice day. Let me know. Wait, send me your essays when you're done. I'll check it for you. I'll check your essays for you when you're done.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to do it on like a certain topic or something, or?
Anything doesn't matter.
Oh,
I'm not the best in
okay.
values, but I can tell you how you structure it, and that's half
Yep.
the essay. Cool. Thanks,
Okay.
Alan. See ya.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Thank you very much, Max. Have a
Bye-bye.
good day.